Hello, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching Eagle News International.
And I'm CJ Hero. Welcome to the program. On tonight's headlines.
Security forces in Myanmar opened fire and made mass arrests Sunday as they sought to break up protests against the military seizure of power. The UN human rights official said it had credible information that 18 people were killed and 30 were wounded.
Myanmar's deposed civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi appeared via video in a Naypyidaw court on Monday to face charges the international community widely believes are frivolous.
Far-left indoctrination.
And after weeks of delay, security forces in Myanmar opened fire and made mass arrests on Sunday as they sought to break up protests against the military seizure of power. The UN human rights official said it had credible information that 18 people were killed and 30 were wounded. The Office of Human Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet also reiterated a call for the immediate release of all those arbitrarily detained, including members of the elected government. EBC's Cristel Mapa is monitoring the situation from Thailand. Cristel?
The UN Rights Office said it had credible information that at least 18 people had been killed in Sunday's crackdown on protesters in Myanmar, as it strongly condemned the violence. Myanmar security forces opened fire on protesters, killing at least 8, according to AFP sources in the country, including rescue workers, in the bloodiest action so far to smother opposition to the military coup 4 weeks ago. Ravina Shamdasani, spokeswoman for the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, said the use of lethal force against non-violent demonstrators was never justifiable under international human rights norms. 3 men were killed and at least 20 others injured when security forces moved on a rally in the southern coastal hub of Dawei. Rescue worker Pei Zhao Hein said the trio were shot dead with live rounds, while the injured were hit by rubber bullets. 2 teenagers were gunned down in Bago, a 2-hour drive north of commercial capital Yangon. Hundreds of people had been arrested by evening and transported to the city's notorious insane prison, where many of Myanmar's leading democracy campaigners have served long jail terms under previous dictatorships. At least 1 journalist documenting Sunday's assaults by security forces was beaten and detained further north in Myitkyina, a city at the headwaters of the Irrawaddy River, according to the local outlet The 74 Media. Another reporter was shot with rubber bullets while covering a protest in the central city of Kyiv, their employer said. A spokesman for the ruling junta did not respond to phone calls seeking comment on Sunday's violence. The current UN Special Envoy, Swiss diplomat Christian Schreiner-Bergener, has the unenviable task of finding the ingredients for compromise which might lead Myanmar out of the present dangerous confrontation between the military and the people. She is seeking a meeting with representatives of the new government as a matter of urgency, but any such meeting would be conditional on her also being able to meet Aung San Suu Kyi. Reporting from Thailand, I am Cristel Mapa. We live in interesting times.
Staying in Myanmar, where ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi was hit with 2 new criminal charges when she appeared in court via video link today, a month after a military coup triggered relentless and massive protests. Suu Kyi, 75, was already facing obscure criminal charges for possessing unlicensed walkie-talkies, as well as violating coronavirus restrictions by staging a campaign event during last year's election. Her lawyer, Kim Lin Mangzo said she is now also accused of a violation of communications laws as well as intent to incite public unrest. He said, quote, "We cannot say for sure how many more cases Aung San Suu Kyi will face in this period, and anything can happen in this country at this time. Suu Kyi has not been seen since being detained on February 1st, and her appearance came as demonstrators took to the streets again across the country in defiance of an escalation of deadly force from the junta. Myanmar's ousted President Win Mint is also facing the same intent to incite public unrest charge, in addition to coronavirus restriction breaches.
Meanwhile, European Union diplomatic chief Joseph Borrell condemned the military crackdown in Myanmar and confirmed the bloc would adopt sanctions in response. Violence will not give legitimacy to the illegal overthrowing of the democratically elected government in Myanmar, Borrell said in a statement. In shooting against unarmed citizens, the security forces have shown a blatant disregard for international law and must be held to account. The UN Rights Office said at least 18 people were killed, several wounded, and hundreds arrested Sunday when security forces dispersed pro-democracy demonstrations in Myanmar. It also marks the bloodiest action so far to smother opposition to the country's military coup 4 weeks ago. Borrell said, quote, "The European Union will take measures in response to these developments shortly. European ministers have already agreed on sanctions against Myanmar's military over the coup and have decided to withhold some development aid. The sanctions are expected to be finalized in the coming days and will take effect once an official notice has been published by the EU.
Meanwhile, Singapore's Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan said he is alarmed by recent developments in Myanmar. Speaking during the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Committee of Supply debate, Dr. Balakrishnan said despite ASEAN's core principle of non-interference, it can still play a constructive role in facilitating a return to normalcy and stability in Myanmar. Watch this.
In this respect, I also hope that the President, Win Myint, and the State Councillor, Daw Aung San Suu Kyi, and the other detainees will be released so that they can engage in discussions and negotiations in good faith. The stakeholders in Myanmar must find a long-term, peaceful political solution, including a return to its path of democratic transition. Mr. Speaker, our bilateral relations with Myanmar are long-standing, and Myanmar is a key member of ASEAN. ASEAN has a long-standing policy of non-interference in the internal affairs of our member states. Nevertheless, a statement was issued quickly by the ASEAN chair to reflect the seriousness with which ASEAN views the developments in Myanmar. The statement emphasized and reaffirmed the importance of the principles enshrined in the ASEAN Charter, including adherence to the principles of democracy, the rule of law, good governance, respect for and protection of human rights, and fundamental freedoms. It also called for dialogue, reconciliation, and the return to normalcy in accordance with the will of the people of Myanmar. All ASEAN member states are expected to uphold the principles enshrined in the ASEAN Charter and the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration.
Meanwhile, Thai police shot rubber bullets and used water cannon and tear gas against pro-democracy protesters in Bangkok at a rally outside a military barracks housing the Prime Minister's residence. Here's Faye Barte for the report.
Police shot rubber bullets and used water cannon and tear gas against pro-democracy protesters in Bangkok Sunday at a rally outside the military barracks housing the Prime Minister's residence. A youth-led protest movement calling for the resignation of Prayut Chan-o-cha's government had lost steam in recent months following a second wave of coronavirus infections in Thailand. but the recent detention of 4 prominent protest leaders on royal defamation charges has given a shot in the arm. The 4 are among 58 protesters facing lèse-majesté charges and the prospect of up to 15 years in jail per charge if convicted of insulting the monarchy. An estimated 2,000 demonstrators marched from the major Bangkok intersection Victory Monument on Sunday to a nearby military barracks where Prayut lives. Among the protesters were scores of migrant workers from neighboring Myanmar rallying against the coup that ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi on February 1. Despite protest organizers sending a social media message at around 8:30 p.m. local time urging demonstrators to go home, scores stuck around, many on motorbikes playing a cat and mouse game with advancing police. A nurse at Recha VT Hospital told AFP the officer died but would not elaborate on the circumstances. At least 2 protesters were arrested. According to the live Facebook feed, however, police have not confirmed the total number. Thai lawyers for human rights said 19 were arrested, including a 16-year-old. Thailand's pro-democracy movement kicked off last July, and its peak attracted tens of thousands of mostly young people. Among the movement's demands are a rewrite of the redrafted constitution and reforms of the monarchy, a taboo-smashing demand in a country where the ultra-wealthy royal family has long been untouchable. This is Faye Barter reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken called Sunday for the immediate release of Hong Kong dissidents charged and detained under Beijing's sweeping new national security law. We condemn the detention of and charges filed against pan-democratic candidates in Hong Kong's elections and call for their immediate release, Blinken said on Twitter. Political participation and freedom of expression should not be crimes. The U.S. stands with the people of Hong Kong, he said. Dozens of Hong Kong dissidents were charged with subversion on Sunday in the largest use yet of the national security law as authorities seek to cripple the financial hub's democracy movement. Police arrested 55 of the city's best-known pro-democracy campaigners in a series of dawn raids last month. On Sunday, 47 were charged with 1 count each of conspiracy to commit subversion, one of the new national security crimes. Britain and the European Union said the charges showed the law was being used to target political dissent rather than actual threats to national security. China's foreign ministry on Monday dismissed the U.S. criticism and said Beijing resolutely supports Hong Kong police in upholding national security as well as Hong Kong's security and stability. The security law was imposed on the city last year and criminalizes any act deemed to be subversion, secession, terrorism, or collusion with foreign forces.
In other news, the Turkish fiancé of slain Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi said that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman should be punished without delay over the murder. The United States on Friday declassified a report that publicly accused the Crown Prince of approving Khashoggi murder in the kingdom's Istanbul consulate in 2018. But the United States stopped short of applying sanctions against the 35-year-old de facto leader known by his initial MBS. It is essential that the Crown Prince who ordered the brutal murder of a blameless and innocent person should be punished without delay, Khashoggi's fiancée, Hatice Cengiz, said in a statement posted on her official Twitter account in English and Arabic. She said this will not only bring the justice we have been seeking for Jamal, but it could also prevent similar acts recurring in the future. Cengiz said if the Crown Prince was not punished, it will forever signal that the main culprit can get away with murder, which will endanger us all and be a stain on our humanity.
In other news, former U.S. President Donald Trump teases another run for the White House in his first address since leaving office at the Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC, in Florida. Donald Trump told conservatives Sunday he was considering running for president again in 2024 as he reasserted dominance over the Republican Party and warned of a struggle for America's very survival. Let's listen in.
Left indoctrination.
Actually, as you know, they just lost the White House, but it's one of those things. But who knows? Who knows? I may even decide to beat them for a third time, okay? Beat them for a third time. You know, they kept saying, he's going to start a brand new party. We have the Republican Party. It's going to unite and be stronger than ever before. I am not starting a new party. That was fake news. Fake news, no. Wouldn't that be brilliant? Let's start a new party and let's divide our vote so that you can never win. No, we're not interested in that. No. And then a Republican president will make a triumphant return to the White House. And I wonder who that will be. I wonder who that will be. Who will that be? I wonder. He's in every department of the federal government.
Trump remains the most potent force in the Republican Party, something he made clear he was acutely aware of Sunday when he described his own endorsement as the most powerful asset in politics.
And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be right back.
This portion is brought to you by Canriv Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Services offered: supply and installation of elevators, escalators, air conditioners, ventilators, jet towel, hand dryers, generators, access control system, factory automation, and modernization. For more info, please contact Ami Kanke at 0915-263-7198 or 0998-900-3224.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Welcome back. Back here in the Philippines, the country kicked off its COVID-19 vaccination campaign Monday morning with shots to be administered to some frontline healthcare workers at the Philippine General Hospital and top government officials, an effort meant to boost public confidence in vaccination. The first dose of China's Sinovac-made CoronaVac vaccine was given to UPPGH Director Dr. Gerardo Gap Legaspi. He was vaccinated by nurse Cherlock Santos. Let's listen in.
Base sa siyensya, no? Sinabi ko po sa town hall, alisin natin ang ating view sa vaccine, hiwalay sa politika, hiwalay sa partido, hiwalay sa administrasyon, hiwalay sa paniniwala, kundi batay sa siyensya na malinaw. At si Dr. Domingo po ay hindi maglalabas. Alam ko po na ang kanyang vaccine expert panel hindi po maglalabas ng hindi sigurado. Kaya po tumagal ng 6 na linggo, katulad ng sinabi niya, whereas ang iba ay 21 days, 22 days na ilalabas nila. Kasi po, kailangan makumpleto ang datos bago nila linabas. Hindi po siya ganoon kaganda sa pananaw ng karamihan Pero pagka po sinuri ninyo ng mas malalim, maintindihan po ninyo kung bakit ako ang unang nag-volunteer magpabakuna. In fact, ang asawa ko po at anak, kinausap ko kahapon, sinabi ko, dahil hyper-allergic sila, malamang po itong bakuna ang aking i-recommend sa kanila. So, hindi po ako, katulad sinabi ko, ang aking pong mga pananaw ay hango sa aking paniniwala sa datos at walang ibang basihan po. No?
At yun nga po, sa pagbabakuna, pinag-aralan ko po yan lahat. Kasama po ako ng technical advisory group na may access rin po dun sa mga, even the confidential papers po. At sa pag-aaral po namin, itong Sinovac, yung 50.4% is the efficacy for mild. But it is 78% efficacious for moderate and 100% efficacious for severe. For example po, 2.5 million people na ang namatay sa COVID ngayon. Kung meron tayong bakunang ganito, katulad ng Sinovac, kung dineploy natin yan at the start of the pandemic, hindi po lalampas ng 1,000 yung namatay. Dahil almost 100% po yung severe. Can you imagine? Magkakasipon ng mga tao, pero walang mamamatay. Marami pa sana tayong mga kasama na buhay ngayon.
Legazpi's colleague, Dr. Edsel Salvana, as you saw there, the director of the Institute of Molecular Biology and Biotechnology at UP National Institutes of Health, was the second person to get vaccinated. Earlier, UP-PGH spokesperson Dr. Jonas Del Rosario said close to 10% of UP-PGH workers said they are willing to receive the coronavirus vaccine, while 90% said they preferred a different jab. Government officials who have lined up to get vaccinated with coronavirus are Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez, Food and Drug Administration Director General Eric Domingo, MMDA Authority, MMDA Chair Benhar Abalos, and Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque. All vaccine recipients will be observed for either 15 or 30 minutes after vaccination.
Staying here in the Philippines, despite calls for him to be the first to be inoculated to boost vaccine confidence among the public, President Rodrigo Duterte said or insisted to wait for his physician's advice on which vaccine brand to get. In a press conference during the arrival of the initial 600,000 doses of China-made Sinovac COVID-19 vaccines donated by China to the Philippines, Duterte said he could not receive the said vaccine because it is not recommended for senior citizens. Duterte turns 76 on the 28th of this month. Watch this.
Have you talked to the medical people? Kami yung mga 70, we have to be careful. Ako naman may doktor ako sarili. She thinks that another brand, I will not mention it, yun na lang ang hinintay ko. Sabi niya, hinintay ko. Sabi ko, but I cannot just out of the box vaccine simply because I have to take care of my age. I will be 77 next year. Next month. Ano bang problema nila sa bakuna na talaga magpapakuna man ako? If I do not want to die and get COVID, I should get one. I go around a lot. I meet so many people on any given trip outside. Bakit dadramahin pa yan? Sino mauna? Ako magpabakuna. Ang problema, ang doktor ko may hinihintay. Now, on the issue of itong mga health workers, merong dadating. They have a choice.
The Universal Healthcare Law never intended to give the Health Technology Assessment Council, or HTAC, Advisory Board the same function as the Food and Drug Administration of the Philippines, according to Malacanang today. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque made this remark after Vice President Leni Robredo backed a group of doctors from the University of the Philippines, Philippine General Hospital, in calling for a further review of COVID vaccines developed by Sinovac, China-based Sinovac. Let's listen in.
And we included that, and I remember the discussions in Congress, in the 17th Congress on HTAC. HTAC was never intended to have the same function as the Food and Drug Administration. Pagdating po sa issue ng ligtas at epektibo, yung decision po ng FDA remains. Bakit ba po kami nag-provide ng provision yan doon sa panukalang batas? Kasi importante po na masala natin kung ano yung essential services na ibibigay natin sa taong bayan na libre, ano yung non-essential na mga services at gamot. Hindi po natin ginawang intensyon sa batas na yan na maghuhusga ang HTAG sa naging naunang husga na ng FDA. At ipaglalaban ko po yan dahil ako naman po ang nagsulong ng Universal Healthcare Law. So tama po, nakasaad po doon, meron silang rekomendasyon kung bibilin gamit ang pondo ng taong bayan. But the decision is still the decision of the Secretary of Health. Okay? I hope that is clear. At dahil ako naman po ang nagsulong niyan sa mababang kapulungan sa Kongreso at nauna kami sa mababang kapulungan ng 1 taon o 2 taon bago naipasa ng Senado yung bersyon nila, siguro naman po you can give me some credit na I know what I speak of.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was vaccinated against COVID-19 today, but a glitch in an online booking system meant thousands were turned away from hospitals across the country. India's 11.1 million coronavirus case total is topped only by the United States. The government, which has set an ambitious target of vaccinating 300 million people by the end of June, has opened up the jabs to all over 60s and any over 45s with serious illnesses. Since the vaccination drive launched in January, only 14 million people have had jabs, mainly health workers and security forces. Modi received a domestic developed vaccine, Covaxin, in a carefully choreographed operation at the AIIMS National Medical Institute. The vaccine, developed by Bharat Biotech, is one of 2 approved for use in India, even though the late-stage data from trials on 25,800 volunteers have not yet been released. Despite criticism from some doctors and health workers, India's drug regulator and the company insist it is safe for use. The vaccination drive has been stepped up as India sees a surge in new cases after a dramatic fall in recent months. New cases have risen to about 15,000 a day from about 10,000 a month ago. New lockdown restrictions have been ordered in major cities in Maharashtra state, which has been India's worst hit in the pandemic.
Meantime, anti-lockdown protests turned violent and riot police charged demonstrators with batons as more than 1,000 people gathered in central Dublin to protest the country's coronavirus lockdown. Here is Rwana Arino for the report.
Hundreds gathered in a violent anti-lockdown protest in Dublin on Saturday, with police charging the crowd and arresting 23 demonstrating against ongoing virus curbs in Ireland. Irish Prime Minister Micheál Martin condemned the protest on the streets of Dublin, resulting in 23 arrests. Hundreds had gathered for a planned demonstration against coronavirus curbs in the city center park, but were blocked from the area by police. Scenes quickly turned violent with fireworks aimed at officers at close range. Public order police charged the crowd numerous of times with batons drawn. Demonstrators handed out leaflets reading, "Let Ireland live," and chanted, "End the lockdown." Amongst the crowd were individuals wearing clothing with the logo of Ireland's far-right National Party. Police said 3 officers were injured, one of whom was hospitalized in the protest, which lasted 2 hours. Martin said it showed complete lack of respect to the people who have made huge sacrifices during this pandemic. There can be no justification for the march or violence that unfolded, he added in a statement. Justice Minister Helen McEntee said a special court sitting was being arranged to ensure those arrested would be prosecuted speedily. There have been 4,313 deaths from the coronavirus in Ireland, according to latest official figures. The nation is currently in the midst of third lockdown, which Martin on Tuesday extended by a further month until April 5. Ireland navigated 2 previous waves of COVID-19 with relatively low case and death figures. However, cases surged after restrictions were relaxed in the run-up to December. In early January, the nation had the highest per capita infection rate in the world, according to Oxford University data. I'm Rowana Bianca Arvino, correspondent in the Republic of Ireland, and we live in interesting times.
In other news, Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny has been transferred to a penal colony east of Moscow to serve a term for violating parole, a public commission that monitors detainees' rights said Sunday. President Vladimir Putin's most prominent opponent was sentenced this month, or was sentenced to 2.5 years at a facility in the Vladimir region, about 200 kilometers east of the capital. He was convicted of violating parole terms while in Germany, recovering from a poisoning attack. State news agency RIA Novosti reported that the colony is strict regarding disciplinary compliance and that Navalny will find it difficult to make calls with cell phones banned and a payphone that often does not work. Another state news agency, TASS, cited an unnamed source as saying that the Kremlin critic will have the option of working as a cook, librarian, mask sewer, or machinist. The 44-year-old politician was arrested on his return to Moscow last month, sparking a wave of protests across the country and a brutal police crackdown. He was sentenced to 2.5 years in a penal colony for violating the terms of a 2014 suspended sentence for fraud charges that the European Court of Human Rights has deemed arbitrary and manifestly unreasonable. We have more updates for you. Please don't go away.
Events happen around us all the time. In our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Welcome back. Factory activity in China grew at the slowest pace in 9 months in February as business operations slowed over the country's Lunar New Year holiday, according to official data released on Sunday. The Purchasing Managers Index, a key gauge of manufacturing activity, fell to 50.6 last month from 51.3, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. with slowdown seen in production, new orders, and foreign trade. Although this was the lowest reading overall since last May, when manufacturing PMI also came in at 50.6, the figure remains above the 50-point mark, separating growth from contraction. NBS senior statistician Zhao Kin-jae said the Lunar New Year fell in mid-February this year, and the holiday factor showed a greater impact on the production and operations of enterprises this month. Zhao added that both the new export order index and import order index were in contraction, affected by slower production and purchasing activities during the festive period.
Meanwhile, the European Commission will propose rules for an EU vaccine green pass this month as the bloc prepares to ramp up immunization drives, according to Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen. We'll present this month a legislative proposal for a digital green pass, she tweeted, explaining it would aim to provide proof both of vaccination and of COVID test results. The pass would allow people to gradually move safely in the European Union or abroad for work or tourism. Separately, in a meeting with German MEPs and MPs, von der Leyen said her EU executive would in coming months seek to create a technical base for the digital certificate so it is accepted across all 27 member countries. Von der Leyen said after an EU video summit last week on the issue that the vaccine certificate could only be launched in 3 months' time and that the pass would uphold data protection standards. The Green Pass term she used is the same employed by Israel, the world's vaccination champion, for a digital or paper document proving the bearer has been inoculated and can therefore enter entertainment, sporting, and dining venues.
And back here in the country, the Department of Trade and Industry has issued Memorandum Circular number 2108, allowing movie houses and areas under general community quarantine to reopen starting March 5. The circular stipulates that cinemas in GCQ areas are only allowed to operate up to 25% capacity. However, moviegoers are prohibited to eat and drink, while face masks shall be worn at all times inside the cinema. A 1-meter physical distance on all sides is also required. The MC said in the event of free seating, cinema staff shall usher customers to their seats to comply with the physical distancing and maximum operational capacity requirements. On the other hand, cinemas in modified general community quarantine or MGCQ areas are allowed to operate at 50% capacity. The MC also allows the operation of libraries, archives, museums, and cultural centers at 50% in GCQ areas and 75% in MGCQ areas. The same operation capacity will also be implemented for video and interactive game arcades, limited tourist attractions such as parks, theme parks, natural sites, and historical landmarks. The meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. Industry is also allowed to reopen starting this Friday at 50% capacity in GCQ areas and 75% in MGCQ areas, except for limited social events, which are allowed at the lower capacity of 30% in GCQ areas and 50% in MGCQ areas. And the news continues. Zero and Eagle News. We'll be right back.
Enjoy your weekend with letters and music. Mag Sound Trip and Chill every Saturday and Sunday at 1 p.m. on Net 25.
Ikaw na ang siyang magbabago sa akin, sa aking buhay.
Welcome back to the news. This year's Golden Globe nominations show a shift in the industry, one that the pandemic has only really accelerated, according to Kevin Winter, a professor in media studies based in California. This year, streaming services are dominating the nods, and for the first time in the Globe's history, 3 women have been nominated for Best Director. Watch this.
If the studios thought that companies like Amazon and Hulu and Netflix were just fly-by-night, flash-in-the-pan type operations, and they weren't to be taken seriously, I think the studios realize now that they have a serious competitors on their hands, for sure. I mean, ultimately, what we see here, I think, is not just an anomaly, but is really an example of how the industry is shifting. And again, the pandemic has only really accelerated this. And so it's placed pressure, I think, on studios to respond more quickly than maybe they thought they had time to respond to the shifting conditions of the industry. There seems to have been a kind of cool reception to Black ensemble casts, television shows, and I believe Spike Lee's The Five Bloods also didn't receive any nominations as to be done. I think it's wonderful that we have, for the first time, 3 directors who are women nominated for Best Director. And that I see as well as a trend that's moving in the right direction. But generally speaking, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Last year, the HFPA was slammed for its failure to nominate any female directors, but this time Chloe Zhao of Nomadland, Regina King of One Night in Miami, and Emerald Fennell of Promising Young Woman all earned nods. Only 5 women had been nominated for Best Director across 77 previous editions of the Globes, with Barbra Streisand still the only female winner for 1983's Yentl. Zhao becomes the first Asian female recognized in the category.
And in a related news, Nomadland made Golden Globes history as Chloe Zhao became the first female director to win the award's top prize for Best Drama, putting her film about marginalized Americans roaming the West in vans into Oscars pole position. Zhao also bagged the Best Director Globe, making her only the second woman to do so in the history of Hollywood's traditional award season opener, which was a mainly virtual ceremony due to the pandemic. The night's most poignant moment came with the win for Black Panther actor Chadwick Boseman. Let's take a look.
My goodness. Chloe Zhao, Nomadland.
And the Golden Globe goes to Nomadland.
And I especially want to thank the Nomads who shared their stories. Thank you, everyone who made it possible for me to do what I love. Thank you very much.
Chadwick Boseman, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Accepting on behalf of Chadwick Boseman is his wife, Simone Ledward Boseman.
He would thank God. He would thank his parents. He would thank his ancestors for their guidance and their sacrifices.
Meanwhile, the Netflix series The Crown wins 3 awards at the Golden Globe, including Best Television Drama, Emma Corrin as Best Actress in a Television Series Drama, and Gillian Anderson as the Best Supporting Actress in a Television Role. In the TV category, the latest season of The Crown continued the show's multi-year dominance at the Globes with 3 acting awards and Best Drama Series honors. Netflix scored further wins for The Queen's Gambit for Best Limited Series and Best Actress with Anya Taylor-Joy, while Schitt's Creek followed up its Emmy sweep with Best TV Comedy.
Papua New Guinea has launched its 2021 National Commission Cultural Events Calendar. Here's Echo Hortaleza Quinola for that report.
Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Honorable E.C. Henry Leonard,
opened the launching of the National Cultural Commission NCC Events Calendar 2021 with Executive Director of NCC, Stephen Enom Kilanda. The National Cultural Commission is the official custodian of Papua New Guinea's rich and diverse cultural heritage and has the role to promote, preserve, and safeguard the diverse, tangible, and intangible cultural heritage of the country. In Mr. Leonard and Mr. Kilanda's speeches, both aspired to make Papua New Guinea's cultural heritage and festivals sustain and maintain community cultural centers and to appeal to development partners and stakeholders in supporting rural festivals that display the real custodians of their heritage.
With word now, our counterpoint is still in the draft state to reduce the random, the issue, they've got their own office and premises, but the TP and where I wanted to see simple tourism industry. I want to see an industry that is more people-oriented. Little did I know that NCC has already been going down to the rural communities, setting up cultural festivals and cultural centers, thus giving our people the opportunity to participate and take ownership of their cultural heritage. This is the way forward if we want to preserve, promote, and safeguard our cultures. Even to the remotest part of the country like that in Aiga province, where government presence for 45 years due to tribal warfare. I know with great interest NCC going in there encouraging people to drop their weapons and take up culture instead. The latter, the young cultural festival, plus many others more, are now registered with the National Cultural Commission as formally recognized cultural festivals group in the country.
A video presentation of different cultural festivals was shown as an advertisement tool, allowing tourists to plan and visit most of the scenic spots, beautiful landmarks, and cultural festivals of every provinces in Papua New Guinea. They believe that tourism prospects for rural-based settings can be very promising. Together with the Tourism Promotion Authority and National Museum and Art Gallery, both departments are working together for better national events and to create greater opportunities this country has to offer. Reporting from Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, this is Echo Hortaleza Quinola, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Novak Djokovic matched Roger Federer's all-time record for the most weeks as ATP World #1 on Monday, holding the top spot for the 310th week. Djokovic's 9th Australian Open title last month ensured the 18-time Grand Slam champion will surpass Federer's record next week. The Serb reclaimed the top ranking from Rafael Nadal in February 2020 and finished as year-end #1 for the 6th time, tying the mark set by Pete Sampras. This is Djokovic's 5th different stint atop the rankings. He spent 122 consecutive weeks as #1 between July 2014 and November 2016, and that record is currently held by Federer, which is 237.
Four-time NBA champion LeBron James hit back at Swedish soccer star Zlatan Ibrahimovic, saying there is no reason why he cannot have just as big an impact off the basketball court as he does on it. James was responding to Ibrahimovic's comments earlier this week that athletes should stay out of politics, mentioning James by name and calling him out over his political activism. Watch this.
speak from a very educated mind. I'm kind of the wrong guy to actually go at because I do my homework. And because at the end of the day, I would never shut up about things that's wrong. I preach about my people, and I preach about equality, social injustice, racism, systematic voting, voter suppression, things that go on in our community. Because I was a part of my community at one point and seeing the things that was going on, and I know what's going on still because I have a group of 300 plus kids at my school that's going through the same thing, and they need a voice. And I'm their voice. I'm their voice, and I use my platform to continue to shed light on everything that may be going on, not only in my community but around this country and around the world. So, but there's no way I will ever just stick to sports because I understand how this platform and how powerful my voice is. Proud to be a part of a generation where our voices are heard and guys are speaking from an educated, mindset. But more importantly, they speak from, I think when you speak from your heart, it rings bells even louder. And we got, a lot of guys that are speaking from the heart that didn't believe they had a voice at one point in time, or, now they're coming into it and they see that they can have a voice and that their voice really matters. So that makes me proud. As athletes, obviously, we've been heard this for a long time to you should be privileged. You should be, you should be thankful, to be able to dribble a ball or run a football or be able to do a 100-yard dash or be able to, swing a baseball bat and things of that nature. You shouldn't be able to speak about anything else. No matter if it's right or wrong, you should just do that. But that's not the case. It's not the case anymore. As long as I'm around, it won't be the case for a long time.
Meanwhile, LeBron James scored 19 points and had plenty of time to sit back and enjoy the Los Angeles Lakers' 117-91 NBA victory over the Golden State Warriors on Sunday. James, playing in his 1,300th regular season game, added 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocked shots in just 24 minutes on court. He sat out all of the fourth quarter, along with the rest of the starters from both teams, as the Lakers closed out what had become a tough February with a dominant victory despite the continuing absence of star forward Anthony Davis. The NBA champions, who lost 5 of their first 6 with Anthony sidelined, have now won 2 straight. James capped an overwhelming first half with a pull-up three-pointer that put the Lakers up 73-44. Eric Pascal led the Warriors with its 18 points rather, off the bench, as star Stephen Curry was limited to 16. The end of the Warriors' 3-game winning streak was made more painful with the departure of Draymond Green with a sprained left ankle in the second quarter.
I am hurt for Steph Curry, the love of my life. That's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I am CJ Hero. See you again tomorrow.
And at the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.